Hello, it's November. Happy November. I'm so excited to be a part of our Oneness conversation today for this month because today we're talking about the theme of blessings. And there's so many blessings each and every day of the year, but it seems to be in the month of November that we talk more about gratitude and thankfulness and really being present to the blessings that are all around us. So I know today's going to be a fabulous conversation. If you're new to me, my name is Kim Lyde. I am a music therapist and holistic healing coach, and now also an infinite possibilities trainer, which is super exciting. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to turn it over to our fearless leader, Judith.
Well, thank you, Kim. She meg witch and there see. I'm becoming trilingual in my golden age. So welcome everyone. It's such a blessing to meet today on my traditional sacred Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory, on which I'm very blessed to live and learn and evolve and remember the traditional ancient traditions of Indigenous people all over planet Mother Earth as it relates to caring for the earth, caring for ourselves, and caring for each other. That we're all interdependent, interconnected, and in a really good way, dependent on each other for getting better at simply being better. So thank you all for coming and showing us today how your hearts are bringing us together as one in this program as we share the theme that is called blessings. And thanks to Unity Church in the States, they have an annual calendar that people can order. And in that calendar, they give us monthly topics and themes. And that's what we've been using for 2 years, Joey and Kim and I, as we celebrate this journey forward to the always more of living from our full spiritual potential. And so I'd just like to share that number for those viewers that are listening today and those that will be coming in later that are inspired, that want to have their souls fed by listening to some of our conversations that we've been having for several years. So if they'd like to call, and I'm going to put my glasses on here because it's significant to the journey forward to be able to share information. And perhaps Kim or Joey can put this up on our line as well. So if anyone's interested in getting the annual Unity calendar, it's unity.org, or you can go to 816-524-3550. So 816-524-3550. And they have annual New Year's calendars that are pocket and you can carry them, and they have a theme for every month. And so I just want to thank everyone for coming today because these are the themes we've been using for over 2 years coming in December. And I know for myself, it's been an absolute sacred honor to meet with Kim and Joey and share the significance of our journeys as young people, middle-agers, and an older person like myself to see how important it is to connect heart to heart using internet, technology, science, and spirituality. The world is coming together now, and we can do these circles in our own homes, in our own communities, and we continue these circles to inspire others when they have down days. There's places to go to listen to the nourishment that comes through our souls as we share in conversations. So Joey, let's introduce Joey and hear a little bit of what he's been up to and what he does and how he's connected to Kim and I in sharing these conversations.
Yeah, thanks. Lovely being here with you all on this beautiful morning. I'm Joey, an emotional healing practitioner. I help individuals to recognize the emotional disturbances they might have and then guide them to connecting with their body and allowing them to self-regulate it and heal it naturally. It's been a pleasure over the last couple of years to have these conversations with you all every month. It's interesting how we can have a very simple framework, which is what Judith was talking about with having a topic for each month, literally just one word. And that one word is what guides each conversation. Every month we've done this. There's no pre-talk or script or anything that we really do to. I guess there's preparation in terms of like how we're gonna do some of this stuff. There's really no preparation on what we're going to talk about. It's really just a one-worded prompt to guide us to the conversation. And blessings is always a great one. I remember speaking about it from last year, and I guess curious how my perspectives changed this year. Um, but in the United States, it's around Thanksgiving time, so we just had Thanksgiving actually yesterday. So being able to see family is always a blessing. Seeing how people change every year, or the way in which we do Thanksgiving changes every year, and just adjusting to those changes and finding those pieces of beauty that are sitting there. And that's kind of I think one of the things that comes around with blessings is um, taking that time to kind of zoom in and look to see where those blessings are, because they're not always apparent. And sometimes I think I notice for myself at least that I have to kind of train myself sometimes to see the blessings, especially what Judith was talking about before we started the recording is the idea that everything happens for a reason. Sometimes you can have some very difficult situations that are completely out of control, out of your own control, um, and can cause circumstances that are again out of your control as well. But you have to try and plan for those things. But by sitting back and communicating and talking and hashing through it, that oftentimes there's a lot of good things that come about of that. And being able to have conversations that maybe never would have happened if those uncertain things didn't occur. So there's, I think, lots of blessings that we can have in these situations that we may not have planned for, but then kind of checking back and seeing that they could be blessings into themselves. Um, and uh, and this is also a blessing here for me to have this conversation with you all. And that we have one more. We've about to do 2 years, so next December we're going on to the next one.
Amazing, isn't it? Uh, I think in looking at spirituality, uh, it's an amazing thing how human beings are conditioned to think there's a thing called time. And when we think about the pricelessness of life and how significant every new day is to our living more in the present moment and getting better at doing that, to be present to ourselves so we can better be present to others, that's a rich blessing in itself, this Thanksgiving weekend for our American friends, to be really blessed as nations, to live from a deep spirituality of understanding that there's nothing more powerful than choice on how we choose to live. And that choice is the freedom to be conscious of relationships as our greatest teachers. So, Kim, building on what Joey's talking about, that's so significant to this conversation, is the blessing of freeing and connecting and having heart to heart, authentic conversations.
Yes. And there's so much in terms of having those conversations and being open to the blessings around us. Even within our own families, being open to having conversations that are heart to hearts with each other is very, very powerful. And as Joey mentioned, I live in the United States, so we just enjoyed and celebrated our Thanksgiving holiday yesterday. So in our own family, we did it a little differently this year. Usually we travel. I go to my wife's family, so I go to the in-laws and they do the cooking and we kind of veg out and relax, and have some time away from home. And this year, all of us, and it could be that we have a new baby, that could be part of it too, but all of us decided, we were like, we just don't feel like going anywhere this year. We don't want to travel. We want to just like stay home, relax, and kind of have time together as our small little intimate family, without the giant big gathering. And so we did, and it was absolutely beautiful. And as Judith said, everything happens for a reason. We were all sick last week with a really nasty cold. And I have some family members that have some medical issues, so I would not have wanted to travel and pass that on to them. So I'm thankful for that. We just got 2 cats that we were not expecting to get. um, last week, a week ago, almost on Sunday, we got a couple cats into our home, whose owner had passed away unexpectedly, and they were looking for a home. Of course, our hearts, we were like, poor kitties, so we agreed to take them in. So they're here and getting adjusted. So again, if we had traveled, we wouldn't be here to support them and watch them and help them through that process of readjusting, which is very challenging for them. And we had time to just kind of sit and veg out, and we watched movies together and cuddled the kids, and it was just a really nice experience to have that time to be present to each other and our home and take that moment, which is so needed sometimes. So that's a quick little tidbit into what I've been noticing in my own life just based on this week. There's been so many throughout the month, but that's a little bit about what I've been experiencing so far.
And so profound. Don't you love the word profound? In the simplest of our experiences, they're the most profound that take us deeper to what Joy was speaking of in our relationships. And sometimes with family, we can have prickly relationships because of past traumas. So the significance of holding space for us in new ways that we can maybe have conversations we might never have been able to have is because we sometimes can create that sacred space of not the rushing aspect of being human, but the being present aspect of being human. To just simply listen to each other in new ways that maybe we couldn't do a year ago, but we can go a little farther in the depth of authentic relationship. And when we can do that, we become better at being human. And I've often said, one of the things that my wonderful friend, who is an Algonquin teacher, said many years ago that was so profound, is she said, nobody ever told us how hard it is to be human. But how wonderful it is when we can be human and celebrate the Thanksgiving of adopting new kittens to join our extended and expanded family. And we begin to see in sharing stories how significant it is, how Kim and Joey and I are so close to our families, and how significant that is to our ability to become better human beings, to live from our full potential of living that aspiration of love that every spiritual leader has taught that has walked on planet Mother Earth. And so, Joey, building on that theme of blessings and Thanksgiving, how they go together, like today, our grandson is 22 years old. And we are very blessed to go down to Kingston to share that experience of celebrating the life of this grandson. I love how they can get so old and yet I keep getting younger. So, Joey, let's expand on how wonderful it is to have families that we can join and celebrate together with.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting to, the more people the more you see how all families are very different. And noticing in my own, which I think people might notice this in their own, is that we often have, good traits that the family has adopted over the years, um, that bring a lot of transformation and bring a lot of cohesion and bring it together. And then there's also the flip side of that, where each family has their own emotional traits that have passed down for generations that aren't really the best. Where maybe we keep things quiet about certain stuff, and talks amongst ourselves about another individual, uh, realizing that we all notice the same thing about that individual, but then no one ever talks to the individual about maybe the impact on the rest of the family, and then it just keeps going on and keeps going on. So it's always interesting to learn different types of emotional codes, I guess you could say, that have passed down for generations. And talking to the elders and knowing about individuals of the family that have passed that had these same qualities, whether it's divorce or shame or guilt, or any bucket of things that seem to pass down. And it's kind of interesting too, because like these days, in the science culture, we talk a lot about like genetics and how genetics pass on. But I think often we forget that there's things that are a bit more invisible than that, which is these emotional family traits that have gone on for who knows how long, because most of it's forgotten. But it still sticks around today because we see it in our own experience. And what are we doing to address it? So I think that's kind of what's been good for me, and some of those blessings is having these conversations open up and see these things that are here now, but also tracing back that maybe they've been here longer than just now. And what can we do to kind of become more aware of it and start to squash the things that don't work for the family anymore. They serve themselves at one point, and they may not any longer. So I think that's constantly what each generation is doing, consciously or not, is trying to see what serves them or not and move it on, so that the good things continue and less of the bad things don't continue.
Mm-hmm. So true. And there's triggers. And once we become more conscious, and that's the work that Joy does, it's so significant, healing the trauma of our emotional traits that unknowingly are passed on to us by our ancestors. And I love the indigenous spirituality that talks a lot about every generation getting healthier so that the next generation can get healthier in our relationship with self and our original family. Because our original families are our greatest teachers. Because whatever I see in another person, I would not be able to see unless the same trait was in myself. So once we can begin to share that, oh boy, we're triggering each other, and get a little sense of humor going, well, that's coming up again. I think we better look at that and have our little child go somewhere else, or have that child become more mature so we can have a conversation on what's that trigger all about anyway. Do we want to continue that behavior? And is it really serving our highest purpose to create happiness? And if it's not, maybe it's time to move on to another family that can teach us how we can get better at not being triggered. Because we're all here to experience life, and to live it fully, we must do that self-work. I call it a labor of love. To know thyself, to be true to thyself. So whenever I'm being triggered, I've got some work to do. And it may not be about me, it may be about the other person helping me to see I got some work to do. So thank that person and reflect.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, I may have spoken about this before, that but those triggers are a blessing.
Yeah.
That, often it can be very, emotionally aggravating, or whatever emotion that we feel offended, whatever the experience is. But it's like once that emotion is felt and we begin to have these conversations based off of that initial reaction, it's like then you have the ability to respond. And then when it's all done and the time has passed, then it's looking back and being like, oh, that was a blessing. So I think sometimes it helps to see these initial triggers as a blessing as soon as you can, because then I think it helps to kind of just like throw down the shields a bit earlier, where we're not so stuck in the motion, because actually it's showing us something that the universe has been trying to show us for maybe quite some time, let alone our family for quite some time. So it's do we just keep fighting and trying to tread the water, or do we just surrender?
And remember that when we're going with the flow, we're going to stop treading water. We're going to see that every event and every experience is an opportunity to really swim toward the shore and the other side, to start to celebrate that there's different things that bring family together. Our ancient traditions, I'm Celtic in my background, so the bagpipes and the Irish singing. Kim does a tremendous amount of work with holistic healing using music. So Kim, talk about how that also helps us move forward in life and not take ourselves or others so seriously, but begin to learn that we're waking up and we're doing a great job doing it.
Absolutely. And it's funny how we bring in these situations into our lives. So like we are our own, we create our lives. So we will often unconsciously create these situations and even triggers with people and situations around us so that we can clear it and overcome it. It's subconscious. We don't know we're doing it, but it's our desire, our soul's desire to evolve and learn and grow. And as an infinite possibilities trainer, that's one of the things that we focus on infinite possibilities. There's always a new view that you can take, always a new approach that you can learn about. So, like Joey was talking about, these family histories that have been going on for generations and decades, and on and on and on. This mindset of being willing to look at the possibilities is a blessing, and to be open to that. What's the other thing that you can do? Are you willing to see what's been happening and notice it and choose differently? Coming back to that power of choice. So Judith, in answer to your question about music, it's kind of funny that you brought that up just now. I have been working in the city of Philadelphia with some of the inner city kids that are struggling in this positive choices program to end violence in the city. And I've been bringing the infinite possibilities curriculum to them as a framework. So we printed out all the workbooks for them, and I'm taking them through the process, step by step. And one of the things that we do is there's a rap. And each little section has another paragraph of the rap. So there's creative experiences that they do with it. There's coloring and drawing, and there's questions and fill in the blank and journaling and all of that. And then there's this rap that allows them to kind of get it into their bodies. So if you're curious, I'll do just the first paragraph for you guys. So here's your beat, like boom chick, a boom boom chick, boom chick, a boom boom chick. I gotta get the words because I am forgetting them at the moment. It'll come to me. Okay, here we go. Thoughts become things, that's what they say, no matter who you are, each night and every day. So think about what you think about, what you think, say, and do. Because thoughts become things from your mind into the world, and then they come back to you. That's just the first paragraph. There's like 7. But that's the first level. And the kids really love that. It's so funny. Like at first, like they listen to it, and it's written down on the paper, and they're like, I want to try. And then I give everyone a turn. And then one person was like, no, I can't do it. And it's funny to watch that process and then break it down and let them kind of, well, if you don't want to say it, that's okay. Can you give me a rhythm, and get them involved? Or if they don't want to give a rhythm or say it, could they dance along to it? So just getting them involved in that process. And again, noticing, taking the time to notice, how are they responding physically to this message, and seeing the blessing in that. So that's, yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been rapping.
And do you know how sublimely that affects them to get it at the subconscious? What I do affects others.
Yes, because
And
they feel
Joey,
it in
yeah,
their bodies.
absolutely. Joey, you might want to build on that with the work you're doing. It's so interrelated what Kim does and you do, and what I do to hold space for people to get to know each other and exchange energy in a really good way, because we're kind of like Humpty Dumpty who fell off the wall, and our pieces get fractured and pieces of our soul leave. And then when we sing and love and live in love and articulate from joy, it's like we exchange energy and refill so Humpty Dumpty can get back up on that wall. So it's a very powerful time to understand emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical wellness, how they're all so interrelated to the medicine wheel of indigenous teachings. Joey, holistically, the work that you're doing to help Humpty Dumpty put the pieces together is so connected with Kim's doing with helping all these wonderful children who may have only experienced violence in their lives to experience a different energy.
Yeah, Kim, that's really inspiring to work with adolescents, most especially, that you're capturing their attention in a place where they're open to new ideas, and then to do it in a fun way. And obviously rap and poems, but also like conscious intentional words is like Judith was saying, kind of getting to their subconscious, but then also doing it in a fun and playful way that is going to have a long-term impact. So that's super inspiring. I'm excited to hear more as you do more work with them. That's I mean, people are, I guess, working with adolescents, and I guess it makes me excited to know that that's happening more and more. And it'd be great if our culture focused on that even more. That's a place I've been interested in, but haven't been able to dive into yet. Um, because definitely our young children need proper role models, and being able to essentially see what you're talking about with infinite possibilities. That there's so many different ways to look at an experience, and if either of us, any of us, would have gotten this information much younger, imagine the person that we would be. And so it's exciting to know that information that often has been not known until adulthood is now getting to much younger generations, because that gives them the ability to get over a lot of the BS that they may put in front of themselves. Like I think Kim, like you were saying earlier, that we kind of create these problems in our own life that manifest because of the way in which our mental and emotional state is currently. And so if we can get that earlier before it even starts to become a stronghold, then these children can have much more gracious and uh, more fully flowing lives, like Judith was talking about, of like just learning to flow with the river instead of trying to fight it. Because I feel like culturally we've kind of been taught to fight it and have our will upon the world instead, when we can do less and actually get more from doing less.
And actually, because no matter what age we are, we all have this beautiful inner child. And we live in a culture that is materialistic and ego orientated. So from an early age, we're always conditioned. We have to be better at being better at what the culture wants us to be. And so to retain that young spirit of exploring and being creative, I really see that we're coming a long way to understand the significance of the work that you, Kim, and Joey, and many of us are doing on the path of spirituality, in which we're beginning to engage in what's the most spiritual potentiality for every newborn child. Is they're born with these creative gifts of exuberance and joy. When they're doing something they love, they're fully alive. And I love the ancient spirituality, as I've said many times, where when a newborn child is born, everyone sees that that spirit has just come to earth to experience life in its fullness and have unique gifts to offer to the community itself. And the grandmothers and the clanmothers were there holding space for the young soul to be able to contribute to the community in good ways by which everyone benefited. And of course, we go back to our African friends who knew for many years that it takes a whole community to raise a child. So when we look at North America and how individualistic we've become and how under siege the modern nuclear family has become, we begin to see that it's time now to return back to the roots of bringing family together in the modern nuclear family in new ways, such as you and your partner are showing us, Kim, and many others. And Joey, yourself, all of us come from a different way of having experienced family and how fragmented it has become, how terribly challenging it is for the modern nuclear family living in North America to have that firm foundation on which to build the seeds of growing up together to bear great fruit. So I think life is coming full circle now. And we're coming back to the roots of what does it really mean to be fully human and to care and nurture the souls of our children and our own souls in the process. So building on that, perhaps we're at a certain half hour time into our conversation. I'm wondering if Sylvia and Lori might want to add whatever they're beginning to sense from our conversation that might be relative to theirs that they might want to share at this time as it relates to the blessings, but also the challenges. We're always having this polarity of the yin and yang and around, as I put it. But
Yeah.
let's have some fun in the yin and the yang and see in the challenges there is opportunity for great growth. And yes, it's hard work. And yes, it's a labor of love. And yes, we need good friends and good souls around us to attract to us wonderful souls that help us keep that journey moving forward to the always more. So Sylvia, we'd like to make some comments on what you're hearing so far on this theme of blessings. but also the challenges of finding those blessings and planting those seeds of blessings beyond the trauma.
Well, interesting you say that. I I did have an alcoholic father. We did separate, so moved out of the city and into the country where my grandparents, and now 6 other homes that have my own direct aunts and uncles living. So I was raised in a community of family, right? And so it does take a village to raise a child, and I'm certainly grateful that I had that opportunity after my mom split from my father. But it's just interesting how this past summer, I'm sure he's like just in his 30s, and he's like, all of the beautiful lessons that we've learned over our life. I'm like, were they all beautiful? Like, seriously, were they all beautiful? Anyways, so I'm breathing into all of these beautiful experiences that I've had, certainly with this 28-year relationship. It's just been a true test this past year and a half. But I have a 16-year-old that still is with me, and just to see her growth and just to breathe into the beauty that I had to stay at home with her and to give her the gifts of community. And I've been starting to say that the 3 C's are part of my life. Do you want to know the 3 C's?
Yeah.
And of course, that's community. And I know a few of you know me, so collaboration. There are beautiful souls that we can collaborate with and to just continue to build on each other's strengths. And with compassion. So that's where the true blessing comes in, is that I say I'm connecting, I'm loving the people that I'm attracting into my life, that I can achieve this greatest good, whatever and however that looks. So I'm knowing it, seeing it, feeling it. So the 3 C's are community, collaboration, and with compassion.
Beautiful.
So
Well, thank
enjoy.
you so much for sharing, Sylvia, because, in as much pain as we have, we also have compassion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we all have a story of trauma. It comes with being human. We just have different stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the telling of the story that's so significant. So thank you for sharing a bit of your story, because in sharing the story, you will also inspire others to see we all have a story. And the better we can get at telling the story and feeling the story, others can feel that deep in their heart, they also have experienced pain and loneliness and trauma and whatever else comes with being family. But in that experience, we have the depth of compassion where we can make a difference because of who we are.
Yeah.
Lori, tell us a little bit of blessings that come in many ways as it affects our conversation today on this very significant realization that we have work to do as a human family and getting better at being better.
Well, for me, it's a real blessing to know Judith, and then to see that Sylvia knew Judith, because Sylvia is always inviting people to her home for Christmas. And I came all the way from Carleton Place to Orleans or Manotick, which is a good hour, to discover, oh, she knows Judith. And it was the best Christmas to celebrate at that time for me, because my friends have always been closer to me than family. Both Sylvia and I are fatherless children. That's the other dynamic that is in this group that I don't know with Joey or Kim, whether I don't know if you had good relationships with two parents. May I ask, did you have good relationships with two parents? No,
Yeah,
says
yes,
Kim.
yes, but
Yes, said
divorced
Joey.
when I was 2 years old, so separately,
Separately.
and one more when
That's interesting. Yes. And then you had step parents come in?
yes, teenage to later, and then again after college. So dynamic families on
Quite
both sides.
dynamic. Yes, yes. And yes, the step parent. I was at a conference for women last Saturday, and the whole room clapped as we asked the women to step forward that had been step parents. And there was a good number of us in the room of about 200, and the whole room clapped for the step parents, because it is a very sensitive approach to the children that have had a broken situation and one parent has lost while the other one is gaining. And the imbalance of that I had to deal with in getting married to Bob Davies, who I was 38 when we met and 41 when we married. So I had some maturity, and especially I had the gift of joy to give. Like, this is the first time in my life that I got the right feeling in me to give to people that are sore and hurting, and they don't know how to accept it. They don't know how to believe it even. And it's just like patience, patience, patience. To actually have a meaningful conversation where they're not avoiding it.
So thank you, Lori, because that's so true what you're talking about. When somebody else has gone through a tremendous amount of pain and needs compassion.
Yeah.
Sometimes in our joy, we can, as you say, we can come on so strong that it's overwhelming. So I think maybe Kim could add to that because of the work you're doing, Kim, and you, and all of us have had different backgrounds. I've been very blessed because my experience was not coming from divorce or separation, but it was coming from different traumas. But we cannot relate to other people's pain or trauma in the journey of life because it's unique to each and every one of us. But we still have different experiences that have caused a significant amount of need to put our pieces back together again that have become fragmented. And so when we're looking at the journey of having parents that come in different shapes and forms and are doing the best they can, Lori's words are so wise as it relates to sometimes one person gets on and having a great time going forward, but meanwhile back at the ranch, the other person isn't so well. And the children are very much affected. And so we can see that in the ways in which we're living right now in the modern nuclear family, we do have some significant work to do to have these conversations and to see that in this journey, there's blessings that come from having the conversations. So Kim, could you add to that a little piece of what your life is as it relates to this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in answer to your question, Lori, I did not have a great relationship with both of my parents. I had a great one with my mom. My mom is where I get all of my love from. all the energy of love and compassion, and I mean, the woman wears her heart on her sleeve. She's just one of the most loving humans on the planet that I know. My dad, on the other hand, was a bit troubled, to put it mildly. He was quite abusive, physically, sexually, and mentally, verbally. Um, and so that was a very scary upbringing from my perspective. Um, and it was more so I was living in that space of fear pretty much all the time, constantly, with the whole idea, children should be seen and not heard, and don't upset your father, he'll get mad. So that was very traumatic for me to experience until we were able to get out of that situation right before I hit middle school. So we were able to get out of that, but then middle school is so hard. At least it was. I think it's a hard time for any kid, but coming from like, don't talk to anyone, don't have friends, and be quiet and don't make other people angry, coming from that mindset and then going into middle school in a brand new place where I didn't know anybody, like my mom actually made friends for me. Like, she walked me to the bus stop that first day, found some girls, and was like, hey, this is Kim, she's new, and kind of she initiated that for me because I didn't have the tools for that. So school was hard, and it wasn't until I got to college that I started finding resources to learn and grow myself. I went into therapy, as a major, music therapy and psychology, because of course I was curious about why I felt the way I felt and why people did the things they did and why was my dad the way he was. And so we kind of had this joke, like, all psychology students are a little psycho. Not in a bad way, but like most of them go into psychology because they have things they need to work through. So I went through that process, was able to learn and grow. And from college went into, I found personal development, and I started going to seminars and all these empowerment things. And so now I'm like a totally different person. And now I'm a mom. And with my kids, it's challenging because, like Joey, you were talking about those patterns that get passed down ancestrally, and we don't realize it. So there are times when my daughter is not listening, and I go straight to that place of, you should listen because that's what you do, because that's what I was taught. So then I go in that, like, then I go into it with from a place of anger and yelling and how dare you disobey me, because that was my upbringing of this is how a child should be. So it's been a constant kind of like a battle with myself each and every day as a mom, because I'm like, okay, I don't want to bring her up the same way that I was brought up. I want to bring her up with from my mom's perspective, with the love, like she was like my safety, um but it's like it's that balance, and then my wife was taught to be very independent and do everything. So like, and I was taught to be dependent, rely on everyone else. So we're constantly trying to figure out and become aware of, okay, what's the balance here? How do we want to do this? And how do we want to respond in a way that's going to be helpful and break that cycle, so that when she grows up, she's not going to have like as much issues as we have. We all have issues, but yeah, it's an ongoing, like, personal growth doesn't stop. It's not a one and done. It's not like a college course that you take and then it's over and you're like, okay, I'm certified now. I'm certified as a great person. Like, that's not a thing. It's every day. It's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym and then you stop, your muscles will go through atrophy. Like, you have to keep going. If you go on a diet or healthy eating, I'll say that, if you decide to be healthy in your eating choices and then all of a sudden you stop and you eat sugar all the time, your body's going to respond to that. It's ongoing, noticing these blessings and being present to what are the possibilities, how can we shift this. It's ongoing forever. And you got to be willing to do it every single day, and you don't do it without community, like circles like this, where we can bounce off ideas with one another and hold that space for each other. This is so crucial. It's so crucial to be able to have a community that you can rely on for support, and realize you don't have to do it alone. It's such a blessing, such a blessing. So there you go, there's a little bit more about me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
think that place of fear, where we get to either run or we get to face it, and that courage to face what we fear, to stop it from causing us pain, or we need to flee because it is going to kill us. We have to understand that's a gift, and it's a blessing to have fear as well, because it does protect us and at the same time warn us. And learning to fear, like that whole element of fearing God was an issue for me, in that element of the creator being a fearful thing, which is respect, I think is the word, and finding self-respect, and also to request respect when there is a difference, so that there's a mutual agreeing to not argue but accept the difference, so that we allow that person to grow from that choice they've made that we would not make. And that's a difficult place to accept difference sometimes, because especially a parent, when we're responsible for a little child, and we want absolutely the best for them. And it's not offered in the school, so we need to homeschool, and we can't afford to homeschool. The challenges of today's parent for the issues around gender, it's just talked about far too early, I think, too. It just
And again, if
I'm
I might
glad I'm
interject,
glad I don't have a child at this time.
Lori, if I might interject, I just want to do a time check from Kim, because we're talking about blessings today, and the blessings of us becoming more conscious is really important of what you're saying, Lori. But it's also important to connect the dots of the challenges of conversations and communication, because we're talking a lot about going with the flow and not having to attend to uh, connections around time, and living through time and space is a time in which we're beginning to see that we need to become more conscious that when we get married and we are going to be in a relationship, we have to have both people willing to work at it. And if both people aren't willing to work at it, like Kim was talking about, your wife and you are working at seeing that you come from a different background, a different style of parenting that was passed on by your parents. And so we're beginning to understand why it's so significant before we even choose to commit our life to another person, to work together. We want to be sure that they come from the same philosophy, that they want to work together. Yeah. And a lot of couples in our North American, we're conditioned to fall in love, and it's all about love, and you're supposed to get married about love. We forget about the fact that you have to like the other person. You have to share the same values, the same awareness, that you want to create a life of purpose and blessings, but that means you're going to have to do the hard work of labor, like the labor of a newborn child to be born. Well, it's a labor of love and liking and respect and all those values that encompass two people working together to create a life in which their children can embrace the new style of parenting, because people like Kim have gone to school, and people like me and Joey and Sylvia and Lori have had education, maybe not necessarily in the traditional university of life, but in the school of life. And certificates, I think all of us could probably use our certificates to put wallpaper on our homes, in our bedrooms, because we're constant learners. And I think that's the key. When you look at these conversations, we are so blessed to have the conversation to see how much we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Once we can do that, we can become better at being parents and grandparents and putting our lives back together in ways by which hopefully the community of faith in a better world and counting our blessings, we become a blessing for each other. So getting back to the time frame, how are we doing for time? And honoring that we want to stay within an hour of our conversations.
We got 2 minutes left.
Well, there you go. And thank you, Lori. I'm sorry I didn't had to interrupt, but I was conscious. We're always conscious of honoring the time and valuing the space.
That's really good for you, Judith.
It's intuition. I'm going to watch for years.
You're
Kim and Joey,
flowing river of wisdom. We all like to listen. We notice, oh, it's way past the time.
I know it goes so fast because we're trying to.
Yeah, it does. It goes fast.
Mm-hmm. Kim and Joy, would you like to make any final words before we come to Joy, sort of bringing it all together for us today? And I'll close in a Celtic prayer that I'd like to share, because I think it's so significant to the theme of blessings. And it's a hard work of labor to really count our blessings, but in the chaos and confusion and hitting the road bumps of our own journeys of seeing that we're being called to know thyself, to be true to ourselves, so we can be true to our families in a higher, better way. This is a journey we're all on right now. And I must say, I bless you all for being part of this conversation. It's been very significant and profound. So, Kim.
Yeah, I think if there's anything that I would want you guys to take away from today, from my perspective, is be open. Be open to a new point of view. Don't be fixed in a certain way of thinking or rules or, I've always done it this way. Just be open and present to the blessings that are literally in front of us in each and every moment and each and every conversation and each and every person that comes across your path. The blessings are everywhere. And so just be open to seeing them. And I think if you do that, you'll see a shift for sure.
Thank you.
That's beautiful, Kim. I would build on that as well. And what Judith said made me laugh out loud. I had some tears for a moment there of like that those that we love, we don't always like. And I haven't heard it said so simply and profoundly, because it's kind of the same thing as Kim is saying. It's like when you notice yourself not liking somebody that you love, to take the moment to step back and to check out actually what other possibilities and choices are in front of you, because often the initial not liking, the initial emotion that comes up kind of like makes us myopic and we can only see a little tiny thing that's here. But if we allow ourselves to feel that feeling and let it resolve, then it naturally starts to widen and open, and there's so many other possibilities, choices, discussions and conversations that can happen, that brings you back to not only loving the person but also liking them and then building that relationship going forward. So especially in our most difficult relationships, there's often a lot of learning and blessings going on. And then so our next meeting for the end of this year is December 22nd, 11 Eastern, and the next topic will be peace. And then Grandmother Judith is going to end this with a blessing for us.
Well, thank you all so much. And from my heart to yours, and to any viewers that feel inspired to be drawn to this energy of conversations that I hope will feed many people's souls, to have hope, to see that in all of our hearts, we are really good people. And sometimes in life, that goodness gets covered up from pain and trauma. And I think the journey of tilling the soil, of planting the seeds of nourishment and watering it and bringing forth dreams and hopes in better ways, takes us full circle to indigenous wisdoms and the blessings of prayer. So when we opened, we created sacred space to meet. And I always honor that I'm living on Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory, the spiritual home of, since time immemorial, indigenous nomadic beings that have traveled on planet Earth, and our ancestors that knew how important it was to have relationship and community with not just their own clans, but with Mother Earth herself. And so we're living in a time on planet Mother Earth where we see that everything is connected and everything is interdependent and interconnected to all of us doing a better job. It's simply being human and lightening up the burden of traveling on our own, reaching out to others and being present in ways that bring forth the hope of a better world emerging in each new day. So I'd like to close today in thanks for the Micmac prayer that I think really creates for us all listening today the inspiration of blessings being connected to the power of our theme on December 22nd on peace. So as we close our eyes and center ourselves, may we be connected in oneness to this prayer. Creator, open our hearts to peace and healing between all people. Creator, open our hearts to provide and protect all children of the earth. Creator, open our hearts to respect for the earth and all the gifts of the earth. Creator, open our hearts to end exclusion, violence, and fear among all. Thank you for the gifts of this day of Kim, Joey, Sylvia, and Lori, and others that will be joining this program in months and weeks ahead. May this labor of love help us all to feel the blessings and the gratitude of being fully human in ways that we touch each other's hearts and we live the joy we've come to live beyond the sadness and pain is the joy we've come to be. And so it is. We give gratitude to all peoples of the earth. May they get through this pain and imbalance that we're going through. And may we join in lighting the fires of the seventh and eighth time of right relationship. And so it is. So thank you all so much for joining today on a very profound conversation that I think has been really touched my heart, and I know it's touching all of yours as we go away and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining us, Sylvia, Lori.
Thank you.
And Ernie Tannis says, hello, Judith and Sylvia, and he would like to join us next meeting.
That would be wonderful.
We need another man in this group.
Yes, welcome.
Give Ernie a big hug and tell him we'll definitely look forward to seeing him. In real life as well. In real life as well.
On Sunday. And Judith and Sylvia, you're invited to his birthday party at Lorenzo's in Ottawa. If you want to come, come.
That's Sunday though, right?
Sunday, 12 till 3. If you
Unfortunately,
can.
I'm in Kingston.
Oh, I'll tell him why you regret you can't
That's
be
why I'm
there.
not there. Otherwise, I'd be there with bells on.
I'll tell him that.
All right. Well,
Next
bye,
year.
everybody. Thanks for joining
Bye.
us
See you next
Bye.
month.
next
Bye.
month.
Next month, Ernie will be here.
Look forward to it.